if you've got really large deal sizes, and you can justify the investment of someone's time, even a day a week on ABM, then you either want to start with a one-to-one pilot, maybe in 3 accounts, because it doesn't always work the first time. So spread your risk and do ABM on 3 accounts, choose 3. And this is where the choice is really important. Maybe we'll come back to that.
Yeah, we will.
Or you might want to say, well, I'm going to try one to few. And actually, we're seeing a lot of people trying one to few first now. So particularly industry marketers or regional marketers, they might say, okay, I'll just cluster together, 5 important retailers in my geography. Or they might say, let's go after family businesses in this particular geography as a cluster, because they've got similar issues. So then you try maybe 1, maybe 3 clusters. Because the theory is that you spend the same amount of time, if you can justify one-to-one, then, maybe that's a day a week per account. If it's more one to few, you might do a day a week per cluster. And if you can put sort of half of someone's, maybe it's a field marketer in one of the countries across Asia Pac. So maybe you say, well, 1 day a week, I want you to focus on either an account or a cluster. And that's where I would start.
Okay. And so so what you're saying is that for that day a week, that's the marketer's time now, right? Because sales, right, I'm assuming, can always engage, right? So for sales, it's kind of easier to adapt a little bit because they're getting warmer conversations that are more friendly, right? But from the marketer's perspective, then that day, they're spending the whole day doing what? Like I was going to suggest a few things, but I'd rather hear you tell me what it is.
Sure. And we should say it may not be, Mondays I do ABM, Tuesdays I do events, Wednesdays, it won't work like that. But let's say it's 8 hours across the week. So a couple of hours a day you're working on an account. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So the first thing to do is decide the account. Well, actually, the first thing to do is make sure it's the right thing for your business and that you've got your salespeople bought in and your business leaders bought in and and your CMO, if you aren't the CMO, and they're saying, yeah, we want to try it. So that's the first thing to get people on board.
Okay.
Then you say, well, which account? And that goes back to what I was talking about, the process we did at Fujitsu. It's where is there real possibility for growth? So you want an account where you can grow. Either you're breaking in or you're cross-selling, upselling, or there's a big deal. And where are we potentially competitively strong? So, you don't want to go choose an account that's locked out with a competitor for the next 5 years. That's pointless. So, you need to think about, well, where could we actually play and win? But the third lens on this is, and where there's an account director who wants to play or a salesperson that wants to engage with us and try something different. Because where I've seen ABM fail is where we think, yeah, this is a great account. And the account director says, I don't need your help, thanks. Or they say, yeah, I need your help, but then they're too busy to, involve you at all. So you need to be knocking on
the client side, or is that like at our side?
No, internally. Yeah.
Internally. Okay. Yeah. So like our team being too busy to being like, yeah, I'm fine right now. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you think about it, you need their time. So the first thing you do as a marketer, once you've agreed the account or the cluster, you've got to do your research. So you've got to understand, what have we done so far with this account or these accounts? Where are we today? What sort of projects are we selling them? Is it profitable? Do we have a good reputation? All that sort of stuff. Then you need to think about, okay, what's happening in their world? So this is where you almost imagine you're the marketer in those accounts or in the account. And you've got to think about, okay, what trends are impacting my business? What might, actually ruin my business? What's a big opportunity out there for my business? And this is in the account now. And what do I need to do? Where do I need to spend some money to make sure, my business thrives? Once you've done that analysis, then you can sort of, with that background information, you can engage with the sales team and the account directors. They may have some of that information already. So they may have an account plan that says, here's what's going on in the account. Here's what we want to sell them. Then you start talking about, what are we trying to achieve? What do we want to take in? And who do we need to reach? So that insight piece all comes first. And typically, depending on how good the account plan is, or what access you have to insight and market intelligence and so on. You can do it on public data, but you might have other sources in your business. That's going to take you the first 2 or 3 weeks. You might even want to interview people in the account. So, we recommend, if you can, interview the account team, if there's an account team, interview the people delivering into those accounts, if it's an existing customer. If not, you might even want to interview people in the account or their customers to get you some real clarity as to what's going on. So research comes first. So that's what you do first. And then it's about, kind of workshopping together. What are we going to do? What do we want to sell? What do we want to achieve? How do we want to be positioned in this account or cluster? And that's all your marketing toolkit. So, you've got some brand positioning, you've got some messaging to sort out, you've got value propositions to work out, and then you've got the whole kind of tactics. How do we reach people online and offline? And of course, it's mostly online these days.
So I'm going to ask you very specific questions, and they might seem simple, but that's just how I think. So I like to just to break it down. So is it better? And I'm sorry, because I just like these black and white questions, right? But,
good.
But is it better to start with an account where you already have an engagement versus to go cold?
Yes, it is. It's much easier for your pilot because you can find out more information. So if you think what you're trying to do is find out what's going on in the account, where are they spending money? What are their plans? Where do they need help? It's much easier to get that kind of insight if you've got people already engaged in the account. They may only know their bit from who they're working with, and you can build out around that. But if you don't have any engagement, that you're going in blind and you're just basing it on desk research or customer interviews, really.
Okay, and that's my next question now, because I think a lot of the excitement for me around account-based marketing was, hey, I want to work with this big brand. Yeah. There's an approach now that will give me a higher chance of them kind of answering our call and having a conversation, and that conversation actually being helpful for them so that they like us than otherwise, right? But like what you said, it's cold, right? So if it's cold, like what would you suggest is the best way to kind of get that started, that process? And then to make sure that you've picked the right company, that you don't spend the next 6 months on the wrong company.
Yeah. What I've seen people do really successfully is where they've sold a particular solution. There's one example into a publisher, for example, that was switching from, the whole kind of printed world to the digital world. And they sold a solution to this publisher. They know that publishers like that one have the same issue. They're just at different stages in their switch to digital publishing. So what you would do there is you'd say, well, we could work with these 5 other publishers. Where are they on their journey? And are any of them at a similar point to this one that we've just helped? If they are, we're going to just go in and say, we understand that you're facing this issue. We understand that so far you've got, 10% of your publishing online. We can accelerate that and help you get to 80% within the next 2 years. Here's how we've done it for publisher A. Let's have a conversation. So to do that, what you're doing is looking at, have they got issues in common? Who would we have to get in front of? And then you're understanding those people. And honestly, you can go to the detail of, are they visual people? Do they like numbers? Are they word people? So what you present them is how they want to receive information. And then, you've got a very thought through proposition to a very targeted person. And that's how I've seen people break into new companies through often a one-to-few type of approach.
Yeah, right. And like in your book, you talk about to map the stakeholders and the decision units, right? How do you do that when you don't know a company yet inside out? And how do you do it? Yeah. To me personally, I find that the biggest challenge is this first part, deciding on the company. Like, yes, like if it's an existing client, I got it. If it's similar to my current client, that's also helpful. But then if it's not, and then you have to go out there or you want to go out there and you want to knock some doors and win, like how do you ensure that you don't make the wrong decision, which will then hurt the whole pilot, because you may not have companies where it fits to have account-based marketing approach yet. And so what you want to do is you want to start to attract other ones. How do you conduct that research to ensure that you have a high chance of success?
Well, as you say, you've got to choose the right companies in the first place. And that goes back to that combination of what's going to make them attractive to us. So, have they got needs that we can actually serve, is the other thing. So we could actually compete there. How big are they? What issues are they facing? So you're really there, and there is a model. There's it's called a directional policy matrix. It was developed by McKinsey for GE, and you can apply that to decide which accounts. And that's what we did at Fujitsu. It's in the book. It's too complicated for a podcast.
No, don't. Please don't.
No, I won't.
We don't want to lose them at this point.
No, but it is that decision of, okay, there's potential in the account, and we think we could be in a good position. So we're not locked out from competitors. We've got a different point of view. We've got evidence and proof points around our capabilities. So you've got to go through that sort of thinking.
Got it.
And then
you just have to be good enough, right, at that point, and to kind of just conduct the right research.
Exactly. And then it is the legwork. It's the research, and a lot of this is public information. So depending on what level you sell at with your particular solutions, but you start on the company's own web pages, because if it's a public company, they will publish their strategy, and they will say, these are the issues on the investor pages. These are the issues we're facing. This is how we plan to transform the company or to grow the company over the next few years. Here are our strategic initiatives. And often you can look at one of those strategic initiatives and say, we could help with that, and we're really well placed to help with that initiative. Then it's a case of saying, who owns that initiative in that company? Because that they're going to be given a job. The CEO is going to say, right, Alex, I want you to sort out our supply chain issues. You've got 2 years. Here's 2 million quid or whatever it is. Go and sort it out. And so then it's about really understanding you and, what your objectives are, how you like to engage with suppliers, whether you're on social media, what things you follow, what you're interested in, and looking for an angle to engage.
Okay, and you're searching for that angle. And this is, I guess, where my original question around stakeholders and decision units, right? Because these larger organizations have multiple people in the process, right? And so I guess, how do you go about conducting that research in the beginning? Is it just LinkedIn stuff? Is it seeing what they're posting, or like, because they don't want to talk to you to kind of have an interview to tell you how to sell to them, it's like, how do you go about actually just getting that insight?
Well, let's come back to that, because I have used interviews in the past.
You have?
And absolutely. And it is amazing. So particularly on new companies, we've done an interview where we've given, to charity, or even existing companies. You can get through to people and say, look, can we have 20 minutes of your time? We really respect you as a business. You're an important client. If they're an existing client, we want to make sure we're investing in the right areas to help you in the future. Can we just ask you, 4 or 5 questions? If you're going to go that route, you really have to do your homework before you have the interview, because actually that interview is part of the ABM process. It's part of positioning you, in their mind. So you don't want to look a complete wally. So you've got to do your research beforehand. So sometimes you can get an interview. That's possible, and I've used that a lot.
Yes, we've done that too. By the way, we offered like an amount of money. I think it was $250 for half an hour or something like that. It was Amazon gift card or, something for like shopping or whatever. And it was surprising. Like, it took a bit of follow-up still, but they said yes. And they spent time and they gave us so much information. And it was like, wow, that was pretty awesome. This is actually a sales tactic right now, because I'm interviewing you, but I'm getting the information I need to engage with your company, And obviously you got to be tactful, and you can't just be like a steak knife salesperson, right? But,
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So if it's an existing client, I think I'd position the interview to say, you're really important to us. We want to invest in the right areas. Can I just talk to you about, what's going on with you and your future goals? If it's a new client, then a benchmarking survey is often a really good way. So let's say you're doing cluster ABM and you've got 15 banks that you're trying to get into. Asking whoever it is in the bank, whether it's the retail managing director or whatever it is, or someone in their team, can you give me 20 minutes, because we're doing a give to get around this issue, which we think is important for banks like yours. And then, we'll send you a summary of the results if you give us that 20 minutes. And what's really odd is during the pandemic, people have been more willing to give their time. They're sitting at home like we are now, and they'll jump on a call for 20 minutes. Yeah. And that's fantastic. So and then the conversation has started. So if you think about, we're really trying to start conversations, that's the way to do it. How you find out who they are, that can be tough. And, in some countries, in APAC in particular, it can be really difficult because people aren't as open on social media. So in North America, in the UK, parts of Europe, India, people are very open on social media. But, countries like Germany, Japan, it can be quite difficult.
Singapore is similar too, like where it's not all on LinkedIn. Now what do I do? I don't know now what to do.
Then you start doing some digging. So there might be someone in your organization that's worked with them before, that either in this company that they're at now or, at previous companies. So you can literally say, we're trying to find our way into, HSBC. We want to find someone in Singapore in HSBC that we could talk to about this. Do you know anyone? Do you know anyone who might know anyone? So then if it's not a social network, it's an old-fashioned network, I'm afraid, that you have to start tapping into.
Sure.